Good evening, everyone. This is a call to order to the Bridgeport, I believe someone's speaker is on. Bridgeport Board of Education meeting for, all right, I'll restart. This is a call to order for the Bridgeport Board of Education meeting on Monday, November 28th at 6:30 p.m., taking place at Agriculture Regional School. At this moment, we're going to do a call to order. Mr. Secretary.
Okay. Civil Allen,
Present.
Christine Baptiste Perez,
Here.
Albert Benahan,
Here.
Brown,
Here. Here.
Michael Macaron,
Yeah, he's up.
Michael Macaron. Joseph Sokolovic,
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm here. I apologize.
Joseph Sokolovic. He's here too.
Yeah, he is.
Joseph Sokolovic, Joseph Lombard, present.
I'm sorry, I miss, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Let's please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Before we start, I would like to, I'm gonna move, because I think the order's a little mixed up. We're gonna have student representatives reports. Please state your name and the school that you attend and share your report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Estrella, and I'm representing Bridgeport Military Academy tonight. A couple things going on at Bridgeport Military Academy are that the seniors are raising money for their prom, graduation, and other events by collecting water bottles. Report card conferences went extremely well. Teachers were happy to meet the parents of their cadets, and Bridgeport Military Academy is finalizing our visit to NEASC. Student representatives will be chosen to speak with the visitor about their concerns and praise for BMA. Thank you.
Mr. Sokolovic, if you could mute your phone, please.
Apologies.
You're all set? Thank you. We're gonna turn to any of our students that may be online. If you could just say your name and the school that you attend.
Hello, my name is Yuneska Marseille, and tonight I am going to be representing Bassick High School. The Bassick cross country team participated in a jogathon fundraiser on Thursday, November 3rd. Athletes completed as many miles as they could from 3 to 4 p.m. Their goal was to raise enough money for every member of the team to receive a new pair of running shoes. The Bassick soccer team advanced to the playoff, but they lost their first game in the game. However, one student, Jill Miranda, was selected to the Connecticut Soccer Coaches Association and the Connecticut High School Coaches Association Senior Bowl 2022. He played on for CSCA team on Friday, November 25th, 2022. Student council took place the week before Thanksgiving, and students voted for the better improvement of the school. We have outside help for students who need help filling out their FAFSA and college application. Seniors are progressing on their capstone for semester 1, the capstone being Team Bassick High School version of a high school graduate. The National Honor Society members assisted parents at the report card conference last week by helping with interpretation as well as escorting them around the school. The principal have taken measures to improve attendance by calling parents if students do not arrive within the transition time. Mr. Santiago, one of the art teachers at Bassick High School, is working with the student on a mural to display student talents and Bassick pride. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Is there another student representative online that would like to share a report? Please say your name and the school that you attend.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Mohammed, and I will be representing the Aerospace and Hydrospace Engineering School. So last week, we also had report card conferences and happily met with parents. The week before this, we received SAT scores that reflected just how hard our students and faculty have been working. Our seniors scored 988, and we beat the city by 155 points, the state by 119 points, and the national by 60 points in total, scores in ELA and math. Aero has shown improvement during the pandemic in all scores and have gone up in 3 areas: English language arts, math, and science, whereas no other high school in the state has increased in all 3 areas. On November 18th, a group of engineering students went to the Otis Elevator test facility for the day. They toured the plant as well as witnessed testing. On December 8th, we will be having our multicultural night, and on December 15th, we will be having our snowball gala. This week, the Aero National Honor Society will begin its coin collection drive across the Fairchild Wheeler campus to raise money to buy toys to donate in time for the Christmas season. On Saturday, December 3rd, we will also be having our open house from 10 to 11:30 a.m. That is all I have for today. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you. And did I miss anyone else that's a student representative?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Erica Pinto, a senior from Central, representing Aquaculture Regional High School. Before Thanksgiving, students engaged in a variety of activities. The Aqua Sikorsky STEM Challenge team had a field trip to present the first of 5 interim project reports at Sikorsky. The group is comprised of Aqua students, which are taking on this year's challenge, titled Urban Autonomous Cargo Transport. Furthermore, the Save the Sound report card event was held, and aquaculture staff and students had the pleasure of joining the Save the Sound organization to release this biannual report. This event is made possible by many organizations working together as citizen scientists collecting water sampling data as part of the Unified Water Study. A special thank you to Aqua teacher Miss Holly Turner Moore, who coordinated our participation in this project. Lastly, report conferences were held where teachers were able to engage with parents. We received excellent feedback on the conferences. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask one more time, just in case I missed anyone. Did we miss any student representatives that would like to share tonight? I see a Christine.
Christine Yeomans.
Yes.
I'm attorney Christine Yeomans.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I believe that is all for our student representatives. At this moment, we'll open up the floor for public comment, and I have one person, and that's Amanda Brown. Amanda Brown, please speak into the mic and say your first and last. Well, you already said it, so go ahead.
All right, is this good?
Yep, that's
Okay, perfect. Hi, I'm Amanda Brown with Connecticut Against Gun Violence. I was just hired as the project management for the Bridgeport Initiative. We're just getting started in the city, and what we're going to be doing is hosting a bunch of listening sessions. So educational listening sessions, government listening sessions, community listening sessions, et cetera. And what we're really looking to do is formalize a blueprint to look at what's doing well with community violence, particularly gun violence prevention and intervention, what could be enhanced, what's missing. So we're going to take a full assessment of everything. And like I said, we're just getting started. So just here to say hi, and I'll be around and probably be reaching out to all of you. And we are looking to hire also an outreach coordinator. Someone for me, ideally, I have a lot of background with credible messengers, so I'd love to see if there's anyone who's trusted in the community who can reach those hard to reach communities. So if anyone has any leads or candidates that would be a good fit, my number and email is on that sheet. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, at this moment, we're going to have approval of the meeting minutes for November 14, 2022. I will entertain it for approval of the meeting minutes. Moved by Ms. Castillo. Is there a second? By Mr. Albert Benahan. All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Hearing none, meeting minutes have been approved. At this moment, we're going to skip chairman's report. And we'll go straight into committee reports. Ad hoc district-wide brand initiative committee meeting has not met yet. We'll meet on this Thursday, December 1st at Central High School in the library. Contracts committee has not met. We no longer have a chair for that. Education, diversity, equity, and inclusion, Ms. Castillo.
Yes, we did meet last week. We discussed staff demographics in the district. We were looking at a 3-year comparison between certified and non-certified staff and also administrative staff. We only had 30 minutes, so we really just skimmed the surface with our review of the data, but we are going to continue looking at the data next meeting, which should be as scheduled, the third Monday at 6:30, Central High School.
Thank you. Are there any referrals for this committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one. Facilities committee has not met and does not have a chair currently. Finance committee?
Finance committee did not meet in the interim. I had to cancel it due to being sick. I'm looking to schedule it upon conferring with my other committee members to make sure they're available.
Thank you. Any referrals for this committee?
Yes, I have a referral. I'd like to refer a forensic audit looking back 3 to 5 years at a variety of things, including contracts and financial controls.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll move to governance. Governance has not met, but I do apologize. If anyone has any referrals for the committees that have not met, you can definitely see them. But currently governance does not have a chair. Health and safety committee.
I was out extremely sick, so I apologize again to the community. Hopefully, I will have the first meeting before the board's organizational meeting, December 12th.
Thank you. Any referrals for health and safety? Hearing none. The next one is personnel. Personnel has not met. There is no chair, but anyone that would like to put referrals in, you can until we find a replacement after organizational meeting. All right, next one is students and families. Mr. Benahan.
Student family, we really made November 17. We have a great and amazing meeting. Some people you know, and then my committee was there. Thank you, Ms. Perrin, to be there with us too. It was great. We will have a good one. I can say after so many student family meeting, that one, we send the message out to all the principals and assistant principals and teachers and staff and everyone that we're here to work together as a family, as a team, and it was amazing. And I can say thank you for all my committee members and everyone was there. But also I want to add you there, the Bassett High School have the bingo night Thanksgiving. Thank you, Ms. Perrin, to be there. You sent a message to our parents and everyone. They was very happy to see you one of the events for our parents. Thank you for the board member who was there. I appreciate that. They really have already have a basic BDSO officer, thank God. So soon this week, we're gonna working very close to both the budget and everything. So far, Bassett is going forward. So I just want to say that. And our next meeting gonna be in December.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any referrals for students and families? Hearing none, thank you.
Sorry, I know Miss Christina, she sent me something for the next month. Something, and can you please email me what do you want me to put? I know you refer something, but I don't remember exactly what was it.
Yeah, I made a referral for the reset program to present to your committee.
Okay.
I'll send you the contact information, all that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The next one is teaching and learning, Ms. Christine.
Teaching and learning has not met in the interim. Next meeting, I'll reach out to committee members for December 2023.
Thank you. And for anyone that may be listening online or here in person, all committee meetings are posted on our website and can also be posted on our social media site. So if you're ever wondering when a committee is meeting, you're more than welcome to attend a committee meeting. You may not be able to speak in that meeting depending on the chair, but the meetings are open for anyone who would like to attend. And definitely look them up on the district website. At this moment, we're going to have the superintendent's report, none other than interim superintendent, Ms. Parent.
Good evening, everyone. First off, we're going to start off talking about what's going on in the nursing. Vision screenings have begun and will continue through February. The Lions Club is helping to assist school nurses with this in some of our buildings for students in grades kindergarten, 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Those are the mandated grades for vision screenings. In addition, this is just a reminder that all pre-K students must get their flu vaccines prior to December 31st. If students have not been vaccinated prior to our return to school, they will not be able to return. That is a state mandate. So please, if you have any students in that age range, that we get that done accordingly. Interim assessment blocks, which we refer to as IABs, will begin for grades 3 to 8 on December 1st. The first assessment, which begins December 1st through December 6th, will be for all students in grades 3 to 8. Students in grades 3 to 6 will participate in write and revise narratives, and grades 7 and 8 will participate in the read informational text in their social studies classrooms. The second assessment begins on the 7th of December through the 13th, and this will be done independently in ELA classes. All students will participate in the IAB read literary text, and the math IABs will follow 12-13 through 12-16. We are offering Connecticut SEDS drop-in sessions. Connecticut SEDS drop-in sessions for all teachers during the month of December. These are voluntary and an opportunity to provide support and guidance to instructors and or administrators navigating Connecticut SEDS. Connecticut SEDS is the new statewide system for IEPs, PPT information, and these will be offered during the course of the school day. Currently, we have assistance from the RESC Alliance for evaluators to help complete evaluations within the district and charter schools. This is to help us with the psychology shortage because we have lots of evaluations that still need to be completed and we still don't have enough psychologists on site. So we have enlisted the help from this RESC to do so. The social work department is implementing the cognitive behavioral intervention for trauma in schools, which we refer to as CBITS program, in 13 schools this year. CBITS is an intervention for middle and high school age children exposed to stressful and traumatic events. So that will be happening in various schools. HMH math coaching for teachers will take place at select schools on 11/29, 11/30, 12/13, 12/14, and 12/15. Khan Academy competition for students in grades 6 to 12 will be continuing through January 6th. Please encourage all students in grades 6 to 12 to continue working on Khan Academy to earn their points. Middle school ELA teachers will be able to submit writing samples for scoring the week after Thanksgiving. High school ELA teachers will be submitting writing samples for scoring during the months of December 22nd and January 2023. There are weekly virtual SAT prep classes for sophomores and juniors every Tuesday until March 21st, 2023. There's a total of 22 occurrences, so if you had no students in those grade levels, please encourage them to participate. A focus area for us is the alignment of current high school course catalog and the program of studies. The district is working to update all offerings for high school students prior to the opening of schedules for school year 23-24. We still have 25 pre-K slots available at various schools in the district. The early childhood department has sent letters to pre-K to 4 students for various waiting lists. Yard signs are being placed targeting the areas with the most openings. So if you know any students in that age range who are looking for pre-K spots, please have them contact us so that we can get their children enrolled. We wanted to send congratulations to Barnum and Skane schools on an incredibly successful adaptive art show. The Connecticut Post highlighted this work in an article entitled Bridgeport Public Schools Pilot Art Program to Boost Fine Motor Skills. School uniforms were purchased through the LEAP grant, and pickups are available to anyone who are in need on Mondays between 2 and 4 p.m. The pickup location is the Bridgeport Learning Center, and you must enter at the side entrance. Upcoming events. The PAC PTSO Roundtable will be taking place November 30th at Waltersville School from 6 to 7 p.m. There's a presentation on fostering restorative relationships in Bridgeport Public Schools. On December 7th, is a Student Success Day at all schools for students in grades 6 to 12. There is an available Zello lesson for their completion, and the focus is career awareness. Bridgeport Public School students will perform at the upcoming Bridgeport tree lighting ceremony at McLeavy Green on 11/29 at 5 p.m., as well as the Bridgeport Police Chief swearing-in ceremony on 12/1. There's an Arts Career Expo on 12/1 at Harding High School from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m., and all high school students are invited to attend the expo independently. School-based science fairs have begun during the month of December as well.
Thank you so much for that report. The floor is open for any questions for interim superintendent Perrin. Are there any questions? Yes, Ms. Castillo.
About the program that you mentioned it was about students that have experienced trauma. Do you know more or less how many students in the district will be participating in that program?
So basically, they're going to be having a caseload at each school for about 20 to 25 students who will be able to be enlisted in that. So the social workers at each of the schools have been trained in these specific training trauma so that they can go through, they enlist them, they have conversations and interviews with parents about what that program entails, because it's really like in-depth therapy for those students to be able to become more accessible to the education that we have. You're welcome.
Ms. Christine, sorry.
Baptiste
Perez, my bad.
I have a follow-up question regarding the CBT program. Is it only at selected schools, or will it be available at all schools?
This is only available at 13 schools currently.
13 schools? Mm-hmm. Are they our priority schools, or how are the schools selected?
So the schools were selected based upon some information that they collected at the end of last school year, looking at demographics as far as discipline logs. They had conversations with the principals, administrators, as well as social workers, and that's how they were selected. They're not necessarily priority schools, though.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Anyone online? Yes, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
I have a question regarding the virtual SAT classes. Do you know, is the office aware of how many students are enrolled in high school for it? And I'm sure if students are taking the PSATs, they'll be able to still take the virtual SATs course.
So yes, they will still be able to take those as long as they register. So when I spoke to Ms. Reyes Roques, she's the person who's working with that to get this program started. She said roughly that they had about 30 kids who had signed up for it. She says one of the things that they're working on doing, we talked about actually sending out some phone blasts via Parent Square to students in those grade levels to be able to get parents more aware. She's saying that what she's experiencing is some children have registered but are not actually showing up for the courses.
And is it free?
Yes.
So we got free SAT prep through Bridgeport schools. But yet there's programs that want to charge our kids. Just put it out there that's good, and I would do that plug for teaching and learning.
And I just have a question. I know you mentioned that school uniforms are being, there's a grant through LEAP.
Yes.
Is it possible that we can have that all over everywhere? Because I know that there are parents, social media and stuff like that, and possibly Parent Square to advertise it if it hasn't already.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone online? Mr.
No
Macaron?
question.
Okay. All right, thank you. There's no old business to be, okay. There's no old business to be transacted. We'll move right into our first agenda item, which is discussion and possible action on addressing English language learner literature, multilingual services, and interpretation services within the district for students and parents. We do have a presenter to share a little bit about this. Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
I stand to present before you a brief overview of the English language program here in Bridgeport Public Schools. Anna Susan Martins, the director of the program, became ill today and needed to leave work unexpectedly. So it's not a comprehensive overview, but a brief overview. In regards to students, there's Spanish language support provided to students that enter the district that are proficient in Spanish, but are not proficient in English. We have bilingual programs that are available to students, but when the bilingual program is at capacity, Spanish tutors are provided to students whose predominant language is Spanish, but have not yet mastered English proficiency. One of the other programs available to students, the most second dominant and spoken language in the district, is Portuguese language support. We have several schools that have a large population of Portuguese students. We do not have Portuguese bilingual programs, so Portuguese tutors are hired. Additionally, ESL teachers that speak Portuguese proficiently also provide support in those schools. The third program that I have shared that we offer to speakers of second language that are not dominant languages like Spanish or Portuguese, we provide ESL services. So if a child enters from the Ukraine and does not speak English, a child that speaks Haitian Creole as an example, they receive ESL support in the district. And the fourth program that we have in place for students that may not speak English fluently yet, but speak another language is called the SLIFE program. That program is currently only housed at Central High School. SLIFE stands for Students with Limited, Interrupted Formal Education. So the students may not be ready for high school for a variety of reasons. Their education has been interrupted. The students have traveled abroad and may have experienced some challenges. They enter this class to learn some basic English skills. Additionally, the class is small enough to provide social emotional supports. In regards to families, there are 4 items that I have shared on behalf of Anna. One is programming options. When children enter the district, whether they're entering from a new country as a newcomer from a different country outside the United States, or if the student is entering Bridgeport Public Schools from another state within the United States, students are screened. And based on their English proficiency, they're offered either bilingual program, Spanish language support, Portuguese support, or ESL. But a parent has the right to choose the program. So some parents choose not to enroll their child in a specific program. And in those examples I included, would include if a child's at a magnet school that does not receive ESL or Spanish language or Portuguese language support. So parents have options whether to put their child in a self-contained class, leave their child in a neighborhood school, or opt out of second language support or ESL support. Parents also have access to translation services, documents that are sent home from the school, documents that are sent out from the district are translated. Parents also have access to request translation. In Power School, the parents' predominant choice of language for translation is earmarked in Power School, so teachers and principals are aware of the language of choice for the family. In addition, when parents receive messages on Parent Square, that there is translation of the information on Parent Square as well. One of the third parent services available to parents is interpretation services. So documents are translated. When there's a meeting, interpretation services can be requested. The school can call into the service, identify to the service the language of choice for the family, and that interpretation occurs during the meeting. Interpretation services are available during parent-teacher conferences, PPTs, even secretaries can access those services upon registration. And last but not least, on the Newcomer Arrival Center. During the pandemic, we actually opened a Newcomer Arrival Center housed at Central High School. There are 1.5 secretaries. One secretary speaks English, the other speaks Portuguese. Anna Susan Martins, the director, happens to be fluent in both languages. There's data management, and there's staffing to help register students in the schools, and that staffing is also available to provide resources and supports within the community. Many of our families, unfortunately, have traveled a long way, may not have the necessary clothing due to Connecticut being a cold state. At the Newcomer Arrival Center, the team has worked diligently to connect family with resources within the community to support them at the time they enter the Newcomer Arrival Center. That's a brief overview of some of the services available to students, a brief overview of services available to families.
Thank you. The reason why this agenda item was brought up was there was concern with the services, not with our services, but just across the state of what was available for English language learners. So I added this to the agenda, and I wanted to make sure that we addressed it as a board, but also too, if any of our board members have any questions. I know she is not the person to answer all of them, and we will do another presentation where Ms. Anna can come in and talk to parents, talk to the board and present to the parents, but I want to open up the floor if anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Castillo.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I thought that it was a pretty comprehensive overview. So thank you for taking the time to go through and share with us about all the different services that the district offers. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Lombard.
Thank you. Just
Put your mic on.
Thanks. So I was interested in the situations where the parents opt out of having their student participate in one of the programs. You said maybe because they're in a magnet school or a neighborhood school, they don't want to remove them from where they are. How is the student's language needs met in those instances? What steps up at that point when the parent refuses to use the service?
So most recently, we've embarked as a district on providing professional development, not only to an ESL teacher, or bilingual teacher, but to our general education staff. One of our last PD days, all of the teachers in grades K through 8 did receive professional development on supporting English language learners in class. That will be an ongoing initiative for us to support general education teachers in understanding the needs of a second language learner. That type of PD will also happen at high school. We've been monitoring the performance of our English language learners when we disaggregate literacy data and math data. So eventually we'll be using the Lost Links assessment, the assessment that English language learners take, to better understand how to meet their needs. When they take this assessment, they're either a beginner, early intermediate, or proficient. Of course, the goal is proficiency. So making sure not only the support staff knows how to support an English language learner, but expanding the knowledge of the general education teacher, even in the magnet schools, to make sure that we're meeting the needs, the diverse needs of multilingual learners.
Yes.
Thank you. So your responses made me think about the ELL learner that's not participating in one of the programs. Are they still kept on the radar, even though they're not? So they're still followed and tracked, even though they're not. Okay. And then also, about how common is it that this happens where the parent refuses the services?
Due to the increased number of multilingual learners entering the district, it soon will not be as common. So as an example, High Horizons at one point wasn't eligible for services because there were not 20 or more students at the school. I believe there are about 30 students at High Horizons identified as multilingual learners. So High Horizons qualifies for ESL services. So because the number of students in the district is expanding, Howland School, Edison School last year were not eligible for ESL services. This year, Howland and Edison are. So eventually, there will be services available probably in every school. But currently, there are a few pockets of schools that have not reached the threshold of 20 or more students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Mr. Sokolovic.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me, I'm in the airport. I'm wondering about funding. Is this a grant funded the Welcome Center?
The Newcomer Arrival Center may have, I wouldn't be able to answer it specifically, may have been funded out of some Title III funds. It could have been funded out of ESSER, but it's a question I can investigate the funding source for you.
Right, yes, because I'd have an interest of when the funding runs out, what we're going to do. Do we have alternate plans to shore up the funding? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to ask a question? All right. Thank you so much for presenting, and we'll call back for Ms. Anna next time. Thank you. Our next agenda item is discussion and possible action concerning proposed settlement of workers' compensation claims of, I'm really going to say this name wrong, but I'm going to give it a shot, Ms. Pasqualina McBride. This item qualifies for executive session, so I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session for the workers' compensation.
Second.
All
Second,
right.
Judge Calvic.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Oh, yes. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the Board of Education, all members that are present will be in executive session and the lawyer that is online will be in executive session, I believe. Huh? No, he's not for this one. We may need to call her in. All right. So we'll be back in just a few moments, so bear with us. All right.
Is somebody going to call me?
Hello?
Mr. Macaron?
Yes.
Yes, just give me a second. I'm gonna add Joe to the call.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
They cut me off. I'm here. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Macaron, you have to leave your team's message on.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
they
have
hear you.
I have to mute. Okay, I will do that right now.
Good evening, Attorney Yeomans.
Hello?
Yes, in the chat, I placed a message. If you can just please respond to that for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't hear anyone.
I can hear you, Mike. I think they're waiting. We're not in yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have returned back from executive session. I will entertain all members present that were previously in the executive session are now back in the regular meeting along with the lawyer. I will now entertain except Mr. Benahan. I'm not sure if he's in the restroom. Oh, here he is. Okay. So at this moment, I will entertain a motion for the proposed agenda item.
Motion to authorize and approve payment of $70,000 in full and final settlement of all workers' compensation claim for Ms. Pascalina McBride.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'm assuming that was all in favor. Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much. Ms. Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on, our next agenda item is discussion and possible action concerning the documents concerning the appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, or dismissal of public officer or employee Michael Testani related to his separation from employment as Bridgeport Public School Superintendent. We have none other than Mr. Floyd Dugas here today. But before doing that, I would like to read something into the meeting minutes. Concerning this agenda item, there was a couple questions that were related to this item, and there were some questions sent to Mr. Dugas just for this purpose, so I want to read them aloud and into the record. The first question was agenda item 11C, discussion, possible action. I won't read the whole thing. The question was for this, whether or not that this item followed the FOI requirement notice, and he replied with, he do not see any problem with the description of the agenda item. In order to discuss an executive session, you may need to notify Mr. Testani and ask if he wants to in public. He will reach out to Mr. Testani and his lawyers if he consents to executive session or wishes that it be in public. The second part of that is, yes. Go ahead. It's the red.
Testing, there we go.
Go ahead.
When I sent it as I do anything of this nature under the attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
So if you're reading it to the public, we're going to waive the attorney-client privilege. And just so you know, it takes a majority of the board. You have the right to do that, but it would take the majority of the board to agree to do that. So I just wanted to give you a heads up if that's your intention.
Okay.
Motion to waive the attorney-client privilege for agenda item 11C.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Oh, roll call vote. Mr. Lombard?
Mr. Lombard, sorry.
Oh, I don't have the attendance sheet, but go ahead.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I will continue. The next question was, if not explained, and he stated above the agenda item is fine, requirements are sufficient detail to let the public know what is being discussed. Does the notice have to provide explicit intent action of the board according to the letter? No. And he responded, no. The way it is written is fine. The next question is, was this appropriate statutory notice regarding personnel records? And he replied, there is no specific statute governing discussion of personal records. However, you should not discuss records that would constitute an invasion of privacy. Generally, if we would be considering a public record, you should be okay discussing. I do not believe any of the records at this issue here fall under this category. Number 3, Can you elaborate on what can be discussed regarding Mr. Testani's personal records and the way the Board of Education may discuss such content? He replied, assuming that you are discussing the contract and vacation records, there is no problem with the board discussing it. Of course, the board needs to be very careful not to make statements that could be construed as defamatory, such as accusing him of stealing time or being unethical. Number 4, can you please explain the legal duties of the board? Here, when it comes to superintendent, he replied, not sure. I understand the question. The board is his supervisor and can direct him/her to do things, evaluate him or her, etc. Number 5, given the
Motion to limit the disclosure of attorney-client privilege waiver to not discuss item number 5 out loud.
Okay.
There's a motion on the
There's a
table.
motion on the floor. There needs to be a second. Second. Oh, roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Item number 5.
Motion to amend, I'd like to clarify, not to disclose and waive our attorney-client privilege regarding item number 5 that says, given the content provided in November 21st, 2022 meetings packet, do you believe there's a culpable claim that Mr. Testani has breached his contract and did so in bad faith? What additional claims, if any, can the Board of Education consider against Mr. Testani? I would like the motion, that's item number 5. I'd like a motion to keep that privilege, attorney-client privilege, within the Board of Education and not discuss our potential legal claims and its viability out loud.
All right, there is an amendment to the motion. Is there a second to the amendment?
It fails.
All right, so now it goes back to the original motion. Is there a second to the original motion?
It was already seconded.
Oh, so roll call vote then.
Wait. I'm confused.
Motion is not to disclose item number 5 and waive our attorney-client privilege for this particular question to the public.
What was the motion that didn't get a second?
The motion that didn't get a second was to amend and clarify that item 5 states what I read was the original question. So in part, I don't want to state out loud whether our claims are culpable for whether Mr. Testani has breached his contract and did so in bad faith, and what additional claims, if any, can the board consider against Mr. Testani?
Attorneys answer that question.
In my opinion, I believe that's a legal consideration of what potential claims we have. The first 4 questions were regarding our rights and whether what we had posted was compliant with the Freedom of Information Act. Correct. And whether we can even have a discussion regarding it. But question 5 is regarding our actual, not a potential action plan and potential course and remedy. And so for that question, I believe it's structured differently, where I don't think we should discuss that particular part out loud, but it does, with the clarification, let the public know that there are beliefs amongst the board which we are inquiring to whether during Mr. Testani's departure, whether it was a breach of contract done in bad faith, and what are our legal claims.
Okay.
So given that it's now been clarified, there's still a main motion on the table. You can reconsider the amendment or make a new amendment to the main motion, or we can just pursue with the roll call vote. And also
Question.
All right.
Are you calling the question?
No, we still didn't have discussion, and I got a question.
Yeah, I was going to say we didn't have discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a question. May I?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little trouble in the airport. Yeah, the gist of this, Ms. Baptiste Perez, is not to disclose our actions we're going to take based on the information. but we're going to be seeking the information. Like say we find out we're owed time or vice versa. We're just establishing that public and then what to do about it. You wish to discuss in executive session?
May I respond,
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
No, I understand the agenda item. My motion is just regarding the legal strategy given in content number 5.
Right.
So not his response.
Not to discuss the legal strategy aloud.
All right, but approving this
But-
motion will, oh, sorry.
So this does only to a certain extent limit item 11C. Item 11C states discussion and possible action concerning documents concerning the appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer or employee Mr. Testani related to his separation from employment as Bridgeport Public School Superintendent. This motion that I'm making, because the board did pass a motion to waive attorney-client privilege. I want to limit our waiver of attorney-client privilege, not to discuss in detail aloud.
Mr.
Item number
Sokolovic,
5.
if you can mute yourself. Go ahead.
We've been informed of our rights as a board. Disclosing the content in item 5 without having the full documents may make implications to the public that I don't think we're ready for, given that we may not as a board have all of it. There may be additional discussion, information maybe we may want to seek as a board before just jumping to some of the potential items hit in the point. I am not sure what the board's objectives is, whether we will do this in executive session or in public. However, the actual legal advice for item number 5, I think should be kept confidential.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Sokolovic. Mr. Lombard?
So
Or your mic.
yeah, I think the response to number 5 touches on a number of different areas. And I feel strongly that the very last sentence should be shared with the public. The other parts about potential, actions and consequences, like you said, you want to keep that to our ability to discuss if there really is something there. But I feel like that last statement, in fact, we do have Ms. Dixon here. I feel like that statement from certain personnel in the district that's in that last question should be shared with the public. So I would not want to limit the entire response. That's my take on it.
Mr. Sokolovic and then Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Yeah, I tend to agree. But as far as not having a document and insinuating, if everybody sticks to factual information that's on the documents, and if a document is not so available, we could always make a note of what documents are available, postpone that, and then have another meeting in regards to the newly discovered documents or newly granted documents regarding this item, and at the same time discuss what legal remedies, if any, the board chooses to take.
Thank you, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Ironically, I lost my, nope, I found my train of thought again. You're referring to the second to last sentence?
Second to last and the last. It's 2 sentences.
Well, that information that hasn't been disclosed as to why is why I would not want it said out loud, because we have not reviewed that, or I have not reviewed that information to clarify how it's being defined. And so by making that particular statement out loud, could have an implication that we haven't verified as a board.
Okay.
All right, hold on one second.
Cool.
Please hold, Ms. Castillo, and then we'll go back.
So there's a motion on the floor. Would you like to make an amendment to that motion or no?
Sure, I'll make the motion just a second. I see the merit in what you're saying about some of the specific possible courses of action and not of action, and keeping that until we know more. But because I feel like the only reason why we're having this agenda item is because of one main reason is because of what's being addressed in the response by executive level staff and our attorney. I feel like that should be shared. So we're going into it with all our cards on the table. So that's why I would make a motion to an amendment to the motion to where we were going to waive attorney-client privilege for question 5, except for the last 2 statements of the response.
All right, so there's amendment to the motion on the floor.
Any discussion?
Any discussion to the amendment? Mrs. Sokolovich, is your hand raised for discussion on the amendment that Mr. Lombard just made?
There was a previous to that. Question for Mr. Dugas. If we do find ourselves treading into dangerous territory, can we revisit the motion to enter into executive session to discuss it?
He's coming. Just give him a second.
If I understand the question, yes, at any point you can go into executive session if you feel that you're getting into dangerous territory and better to have the discussions in executive session.
And will you be able to warn us if we're coming to that point?
What was the guy, Johnny Carson Carnac? I don't know. I can anticipate everything ahead of time, but I can certainly try.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so there's still an amendment on the floor. We open up the floor for discussion. I hear none. I believe we should go into, is there a second to the amendment that Mr. Lombard just made? Ms. Allen seconded. Roll call vote.
Erica Castillo,
No.
Albert Benahan, Bobby Brown,
Pass.
Sybil Allen, Christine Baptiste Perez,
No.
Michael Macaron,
No.
Joseph Sokolovich,
No.
Joseph Lombard, yes. Bobby Brown,
No.
pass. Mr. Benahan,
No.
Right, so now motion fails. Amendment to the motion fails. Now we're back to the original motion. Miss Baptiste Perez, can you restate your motion?
Oh, I should have wrote it.
Mr. Sokolovich, you can mute yourself. Thank you.
The original motion was not to waive attorney-client privilege pertaining to question number 5. That is the overview. I'm going to rely on what was transcribed. Nope. Okay, well, that's the motion. Make sure I bring a real pen this time. Is not to disclose attorney-client privilege pertaining to question number 5. I believe it was seconded by Ms. Castillo.
All right. So now we'll open it up for a roll call vote.
It's discussion about the main motion.
Discussion about the main motion. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing none. Now we'll have roll call vote on the motion.
okay.
Well, motion for roll call vote. Someone has to call roll call.
Okay, Erica Castillo,
Yes.
Albert Benahan, Bobby Brown,
Yes.
Joseph Lombard, no. Sybil Allen, Christine Baptiste Perez,
Yes.
Joseph Sokolovich,
No.
Michael Macaron.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yes, okay. No one else passed it.
No, you didn't.
That's it. It passes.
All right, so motion passes. All right, now we're back. We're back to, that completed the reading.
Now we're back to item 11C.
Now we're back to the original item, and I'll read that into the motion again. Read it into the record. Discussion, possible action concerning the documents concerning the appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, or dismissal of public officer or employee, Mr. Michael Testani, related to the separation from employment as Bridgeport Public School Superintendent. Now the floor is open for discussion. Mr. Dugas, you can join us. What I will do is, because this particular item was requested of board members, I will open up the floor for them to speak first. Mr. Sokolovich, Ms. Baptiste Perez, and Mr. Albert Benahan, in that order. And then Mr. Dugas can speak as well.
All right, yeah. First, I want to just go into a couple of factual statements. I'll only be touching on factual statements and public documents, so there should be no problem there. And I'll shorten it from what I already posted publicly. All right. The current contract provides superintendent with 20 vacation days and a possible of 5 days to be carried over to the next year. Carryover of 5 days is consistent with the previous contract by requiring notification of the entire board of the intent to carry over said days. There does not appear to be any written notification to the entire board of any intention to carry over any days from the 21-22 school year. As per the contract, vacation for partial years shall be prorated. The superintendent has been employed by Fairfield Public Schools since November 1st, 2022, while still under the contract with Bridgeport Public Schools. July 1st through October 31st is 4 months, or 1/3 of a year, which is 7 days prorated. Fact number 10. Superintendent Stein mentioned taking a vacation out of the country during the contract negotiations, which amounted to approximately 12 days. The superintendent is required to inform the chair of vacation time being used. On October 24th, at a public meeting, the BEA president mentioned that it was the superintendent's last week as Bridgeport superintendent. This took many of us by surprise. Superintendent was questioned about his departure date by Ms. Baptiste Perez at the same public meeting, and he said he would be using about 2 weeks vacation time to cover the gap. I questioned whether his vacation time was properly prorated and if he did in fact have enough vacation time to utilize. Superintendent's contract also provides 4 personal days with no carryover, which is irrelevant here because personal days can't be used for another job. On October 24th, I sent an email requesting information on Testani's vacation to the entire board, including Chairman Weldon, as to his vacation balance and usage. No response to the date as of I wrote this, but we had a response afterwards. And we requested the same information on the 27th. I requested a special meeting on October 29th, and before the 14 days, just before the 14 days elapsed, Chairman John Weldon resigned without calling the meeting. The questions I wish to resolve tonight is, how many vacation days was the superintendent entitled to and why? How was it calculated? If it is claimed Testani carried over 5 days from the 21-22 school year, please provide documentation that it was requested in writing to the entire board as per the contract. How many vacation days was used by superintendent from July 1st, 2022 to present? The current pay status of Superintendent Testani. And if Testani has been overpaid, I guess we gotta put that one in. Will the board seek compensation? That could be put off as per the last motion. Since he's employed by Fairfield Public Schools since November 1st and has been quoted in the Post saying he's making a clean break from Bridgeport Public Schools effective October 31st, 2022, well before the 90-day period elapsed. Is that a material breach of contract? We can take off consequences and not discuss that if you like. Since the contract was never amended and he was never given permission to be off work, can he be considered absence without leave? And do we have any, I guess we could discuss that again, and any ramifications if it is so that he was absent without leave? And that's the questions I got. And I would like to point out before we start that we should be referring only to this contract. If you go to section 9B, this contract contains the entire agreement between the parties. It may not be amended orally, but may be amended only by an agreement in writing signed by both parties. Upon signing, it supersedes all prior agreements between the parties. And those are my questions and some of the discussion that we should be having. And I'll pause for now.
Anyone, Ms. Baptiste Perez?
I signed off on this motion because statutorily, as an elected official for the Board of Education, we have two primary duties, and one is for the superintendent, and our second duty is the line item budget. And so if there's any questions, ambiguities, or issues where it's not transparent, as all 8 of us in the full Board of Education are technically the employer of the superintendent, and that is our one employee, we should have access to this information as any employer, as anybody running a business. If you had suspicions that your one employee left with more, possibly, or some, when they were departing from your company, that there were issues as an employer, wouldn't you look into it? If there's any questions, and I think it's very simple, as we stand as an 8-member Board of Education, that we should have transparency to those documents for our one employee to ensure that when they depart, that everything is on good business terms. And without having the knowledge or the information as to Mr. Testani's departure, that leads us to question and inquire the terms as he left to ensure that he's left properly. And if not, then to inform other board members and seek a decision as a board as to what to do next. I believe that it's just in the business. I believe what any reasonable employer would do and inquire. And as a member of the Board of Education, I should have access to that one employee I'm responsible for.
Thank you. Mr. Benahan?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I really agree with what Mr. Sutcliffe and Ms. Baptiste say. It would be very clear and very honest, because really, if you don't scare, you don't need to hide. It's very obviously that we was the 9 board members, we was his boss, and the way he treat us and the way he treat the community, the way he treat the parents, students, and everything, he don't need to get upset. We trust him so much, and we gave it some more opportunity. We was against our community. People was not happy what we did, and look at what he did to us. So if he don't have nothing to hide, he don't need to have nothing to be scared. And like I said, this is a public, and our community deserve what's going on and what happened, because we don't need to hide. As Ms. Baptiste said, we need to be transparency. We don't need to hide, and we have to let them know what happened. So I know some few things have to be a little more be careful of protocol and policy. I understand, but if there's something that the public has to know, we need to give what the public we need. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'll also now open it up to anyone else on the board that would like to respond to this motion. Ms. Castillo.
I just feel that, per the letter that we received from Mr. Testani's counsel, it's clear that Mr. Testani was not notified that we were going to be having this conversation. Typically, when we have conversations about personnel or staff, they're invited to come and speak with us. I think it's unreasonable that he's not here to speak on his behalf, and that if we do choose to go into executive session, that he's not here to hear that information. I think there's a disparity there, and it's not right that he's not here to, or that he wasn't invited properly to come and speak on his own behalf.
Point of information, I believe Mr. Dugas said he was properly notified and there is no statutory time, so we are within our legal rights. Correct, Mr. Dugas?
Can you confirm, Mr. Dugas?
I don't recall if I said that, but what I can share with you is I reached out to Mr. Testani's attorney this afternoon. I told him that this was on the agenda as a possible executive session item and to let me know if Mr. Testani insisted that the discussion be in public. So that communication did happen through his counsel today.
All right, Mr. Benahan and then Ms. Baptiste Perez.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I respect your comment, Ms. Castillo, but I'm not agree with you because like the way you say like, oh, this is not fair what we're doing because Mr. Testani are here, but it's fair what he did to us and what he did to Bristol School to community. It's fair that whatever he
Sounds
was.
like an accusation.
No, it's not accusation. It's not. Just listen first before you attack me because I'm not attacking you. I said respect your comment, but I'm not agree what you say because it's not fair that you say he's not here, but it's fair what he did to us. So he's fair that we were doing with his contract when he really did what he did in Fairfield. So don't let Islam not speak like it's not fair, he's not here, but it's not fair what he did to our parents, students, community, and staff, and everyone. I want to say that, Ms. Brown. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Baptiste Perez.
I wanted to clarify that it was discussed and we had waived our attorney-client privilege pertaining to the specific items that Ms. Castillo has identified as wrong. And as we were been consulted by counsel that Mr. Testani did have adequate notice. We are compliant with FOIA. The content is what is the appropriate statutory notice regarding the personnel records. There's no specific statute governing, and I call it interesting when another attorney writes in a demand letter and doesn't cite their statute that they're trying to cover something. That's just a personal opinion from my dabble with the law, I guess. And I would just take that what we've been disclosed is that the agenda item is fine, and Mr. Testani has given us time. And let me clarify if I heard that right, Attorney Dugas. He said, talk about it publicly. Did I hear that correctly?
I'm sorry, I told his attorney, what happens under FOIA is if you're going to talk about somebody in executive session, you have to tell them that's going to happen and give them the right to say, we want it in public. And I notified his attorney. He said he would get back to me. He didn't get back to me, but as far as I'm concerned, you have discharged your responsibility to notify Mr. Testani through me, through his counsel, that you may go into executive session to discuss his employment.
But his, due to his counsel not getting back, probably not in the best interest to go into executive session without Mr. Testani being there. So we're left with the option of almost going public, for the most part, right? Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to respond?
Yeah, I just have a comment about this inquiry. It's been said to me, you know, Bridgeport is corrupt, right? About this inquiry. And I'm using that language because that's what's been shared with me. The idea that there was a coordinated effort between payroll, HR, and the former superintendent to shortchange the district, to me, is just shy of a conspiracy theory. That said, if there is some oversight that all three of these people or entities engaged in, whether or not it was intentional or mistaken, I have no qualms with looking at the proper documents to determine if appropriate amounts of vacation were applied, if with that use of vacation, if it's acceptable, the 90-day terms were met, or if there was, therefore, if they were not, that there was some breach in that requirement of giving 90 days. I mean, I'm not at all against this process, to put that out there. But I am against the implications, especially since I was told, Bridgeport's corrupt, right? I'm against the implications that something was done intentionally. I'm not even talking about Mr. Testani, but the other departments that are involved with his pay. It really sits badly with me, and I wanted to share that tonight. And one last thing, sentiment has been expressed tonight about how Mr. Testani did us wrong. And to me, that expression of that sentiment just fuels that idea of conspiracy, that idea of corruption, that there's something wrong here. We have to find out that wrong thing. So I think that kind of speaks volumes, that the sentiment is because he did the community wrong. So we're going to find out. And then I'll come back to how I started. With that said, I have no objection to the transparency that's required to do our job, to do our due diligence, to look into things. I just feel that some measure of support needs to be spoken to our executive level staff that is involved with these issues. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombard. Mrs. Sokolovich? Yep. Yeah, Mrs. Sokolovich?
Yeah, if we could get back to the facts. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. If we could get back to the facts at hand, facts should display no emotion, no motivation. We are on today is a fact-finding mission, not a deep dive or anything. Nobody during this meeting has mentioned corruption or anything in the other prior conversations. Yeah, the city is seen as corrupt, but that doesn't necessarily have to reflect on the people. But it does have to reflect on us as a board seeking full disclosure and transparency to show that the Board of Education and its employees are not corrupt. And if we did in fact make a mistake and overpay Mr. Testani, we will do our due diligence to pay that money, get that money recovered as good financial stewards of our city and elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Benahan.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I want to be clear, and for the record, this is what happened as the board member. Sometimes we're very soft because we trust. We think this is going to happen, but I know for this one, it's very good. And I know Mr. Testani is watching us. Thank you for what he did to our Bristol school. This is show us to be more strong. And that's not the point against nobody, but it can be Ms. Perrin, be the permanent. There can be anyone who came in, her, after her, whoever. That's me. We're going to be ready, whoever's come to sit down and represent Bristol School. We're not going to be joking. We're not going to be playing nothing like that, because this is what happened when we trust so much. They want to look at us like a weak clown. And I'm tired as a board member, as a leader, as a parent, that people, they think that Bristol School is a joke. And we need to stop that. We need to represent what we are. We're here because the community votes for us, so we need to be more strong. And I agree with what Mr. Lombard said, it's sad, but it's the truth. But we have to keep forward. We have to work as a team. And we also division, he says, she says, and everything, because we're here for one thing. I believe everyone here, I'm including as a board members, I'm including about the executive board, I'm including everyone's here working Bridgeport School, our kids, our future, and people's watching us. I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that hasn't spoken? Ms. Allen, you haven't spoken. Mr. Macaron, you haven't spoken. So I want to make sure you guys had that.
No.
Okay.
I do see a difference or want to make up my mind later. Before it closes, I can ask for permission to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I will open up the floor for Mr. Dugas if there's anything else that you would like to share with the board. No, he just said no.
Yeah, as I see it, there's two separate issues here. One of which was the accounting and payment and use of vacation time by Mr. Testani appropriate. The second issue, of course, is the other issues you inquired about, breach of contract and what do you do and all that. I'm going to address the first issue and simply say this. First of all, I don't know the interworkings of payroll in the Bridgeport Board of Education, but what I can tell you is this. I spent an hour today, roughly an hour today, on the phone with Mr. Rogers and Ms. Alter-Dixon and went through it in a rather painstaking fashion in terms of what the contract provides and how the board runs its vacation year and accounts for things. And one of the things I learned, well, let me just say that when we were done with that process, we reached some conclusions. I've shared those in my memo to you folks. And we went through that. Now, you absolutely have the right, duty, obligation for transparency and get all the records. Get the records, look at them. And then once you have that, you know, you'll be able to make your decisions. But one of the things that we did today, I don't remember if it was prepared ahead of time or if Mr. Rogers was able to, very quickly to kind of pull records together and show, but he put together a document that I think is a good analysis of what Mr. Tassani was entitled to, what he took, and when he took it. The only thing I will say to you that I learned today that I think really changes this analysis is that the way, right, wrong, or indifferent, that I think it's the payroll, whatever the particular office is, they don't run vacation on a July 1 to June 30th basis. Vacation for school administrators, and apparently that has included superintendents in the past, including Mr. Testani, is the vacation year starts running when the administrators are expected to return to work. This year, that was August 15th. That's when they get their new vacation allotment. So the vacation year, if you will, runs from like mid-August to mid-August. And once you understand that and you look at the numbers, I think it might shed a little bit different light on that. Now, I'm not the expert. Mr. Rogers, you know, I think is, you know, probably the best, or Ms. Alter-Dixon, I think, can explain it as well. But my suggestion is you get that information, you look at it, and then you can draw whatever conclusions and decide where you want to go from there. But I think that will aid you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Baptiste Perez.
We did not receive that information from Ms. Alter-Dixon. We did not receive that information from Mr. Rogers. So I think for us as a board, we need to see that information first and foremost. Also, it's interesting that school year business starts July 1, but vacation time doesn't accrue. I would like to see the history of superintendents where that actually happened, because that doesn't seem to make very much common sense to a lay person, or even, I'm gonna try that number at work, I suppose, but that doesn't seem very logical to the terms of our contract, or it should have been explicitly written that way, that vacation would start August 1. But, and so I would like to see the documents that you had the opportunity to review. I think Ms. Alter-Dixon should give that to us. I also, just going on a little while I have the floor, give Mr. Testani time if he does want to respond to actually having this in a public or executive session where this can be further reviewed in detail. However, from some of the information that has been provided to us as a board from my review, there are still issues with personal days that it doesn't matter about the August 1 start. That would still lead me, I'm just going to keep it very business minded, to have inquiries and suspicions towards the amount that's been paid. And I would love to be proved wrong. I think it's just clarification for us as a board to see the documents and really understand it, because just reading the contract as an attorney, you start July 1, your vacation starts accruing then. So now to hear all of a sudden August 1st, I don't know. It just sounds off. But thank you for explaining that, and I look forward to reviewing the information when it's shared.
Yeah, what I would just add, if I may, is what I've just described is what's done with BCAS, the Administrators Bargaining Unit. And so the superintendents, and I would suspect whatever other, deputy, whatever other non-union administrators there are, it's probably been applied the same for them. But I think you should look at the document Mr. Rogers prepared, and then I think, you're getting this second, third hand from me. I mean, I just learned this stuff this afternoon in an hour virtual meeting with them, but probably have the opportunity to speak to him and have him walk you through how it works and why things have been done the way they have. And I think that'll be helpful to you.
Thank you. There's another question, Mrs. Sokolovic.
Yes, in reference to the July 1 after August use, why isn't that written into the contract as it is in the BCAS contract? Why is it left blank, number one? And number two is, if they're not permitted to take vacation before August, does it accrue in August, and is he entitled to nothing on July 1st? And between July 1st and August, whatever the date is, or does his vacation accrue and get it at the same time?
There's a number of questions there. I'll try to my best. What happens is when the administrators report back to school, and this, it obviously includes 12-month and 10-month. It's at that point in time that they are loaded with their vacation. That's the way it's been with BCAS for a very long period of time. Why? Again, I'm told this. Why superintendents have followed the same vacation year. I can't answer that, but that's apparently been the practice here. What I can tell you is having a vacation year that is different from a contract year is not that uncommon. We see it in collective bargaining agreements all the time. A vacation year, may run from September through September. For example, custodian bargaining units, a lot of times you see that. So that in and of itself is not unusual, but that's the way things have apparently been done here.
Any further questions, Mrs. Sokolovic?
This time.
All right. If there's no other questions for Mr. Dugas, I'll open up the floor for Ms. Archer-Dixon to respond or to ask any questions.
Good evening, everyone. I too actually learned that the superintendent follows BCAS's calendar of vacation time, that it starts ticking again in August when school starts. So basically what that amounts to is that Mr. Testani used his vacation time up until August of 2022. So any vacation time he used prior to August of 2022 was from the 21-22 school year. He used approximately, I believe we counted, he was out from July 14th to August 1st of 2022. He was on vacation. That did not go against what was given to him for the 2022 that is prorated. When we take into account from August 15th, 2022 until October 31st, 2022, the last day that he worked, it is prorated that he was eligible for 5 days of vacation. He also had his 5 days of carryover. On his last paycheck of November 4th, 2022, when because of the pay period, biweekly pay period, that was his last official paycheck, he was paid out for those 10 remaining days. 5 vacation days that had been prorated, and then the 5 carryover days. That was it. He did not use any vacation days for the 2020, what would have been the 2022 to 2023 school year. He was not, according to our calculations, he was not overpaid. He is not owed any money either, according to our review and our calculations.
May I have the floor, Madam Chair, to ask a question?
Yes.
Is carryover days interpreted according to BCAS as well?
No, that is part of his contract with superintendent's contract, that he's entitled to the 5 carryover days,
Yes.
which he did.
The reason I'm asking is that it requires notification to the board.
And he did
That's
notify.
the 9-member board. And the documents that were sent to us was not sent to the 9-member board, but to the chair, who never communicated that to the board. And that communication, from my perspective, there's no carryover because there was no compliance with the contract terms.
I'll ask, and I'm not familiar with that specific clause in the superintendent's, does it specify the entire board is to give?
It does in the contract.
That is all 9 members of the board are to be notified.
Yes.
We can also then interpret that by notifying the chairperson of the board that he was going to carry over the 5 days, that is in fact notifying the board. If the contract,
That's not what it says in our bylaws.
if the bylaws do not specify all board members, if it says the board must be notified in writing, then you can argue that by notifying the chairperson of the board that he did follow the contract.
But are you here arguing on the board's behalf? Because we're trying to inquire to the fact that we weren't noticed, and it seems like you're trying to interpret it in a fashion that would be more favorable. What I'm saying is that our bylaws are silent, and that silence does not necessarily implicate that only, and this is the transparency issue with the board, is that only one person had exclusive information and authority towards our elected 9 of us. 9 of us were elected, obligation towards that individual. And if you look at the language in the superintendent contract, it specifies when direct communication is given to the chair of the board. But for that particular line, it does not give communications with the chairman. It says specifically with the Board of Education. So therefore, that is part of our inquiry as to the amount of carryover date, because it is almost assumed that he gets the carryover. And there's an opposite argument. But I think at this particular stage, it's useful to see all the information and how it's connected together. Action of what the board can do can be considered a little bit later. But I think it is questionable whether there were carryovers, which is why I asked if it's being interpreted a different way, like with the August 1st, because I'm not an employment law lawyer. So
if I can respond, my duty as the Director of Human Resources is to advise the board when I'm asked to. And part of that is this advice is that it can be interpreted that by notifying the chairperson of the board that he was carrying over 5 days, that can equate to notifying the board and satisfying that term of his contract. If the bylaws do not specify all board members and it says just the board, then it is open for interpretation. We took that to mean that by notifying John Weldon, and whatever John Weldon did or did not do, I cannot attest to, I cannot argue or support or deny or anything, because I don't know what he did or did not do, other than what you're telling me that he did not notify the board. But what I do know is that the superintendent did send John Weldon an email, I believe in July, saying that he was going to carry over his 5 days.
So that just leaves it questionable whether there's a 5-day carryover, because it could.
It could go either way. It could go either way.
Okay.
We took to interpret that by him notifying John Weldon that it was sufficient and that his 5 days were carried over.
Thank you. Would you like to continue before I turn to Mr. Benahan? I know you were in the middle.
No, all I can say is that, like, Mr. Dugas indicated, when we did the math and we looked at everything, we concluded that Mr. Testani was not overpaid. He is not owed any days, nor does he owe us any days.
I I would just be mindful that it's jumping to a conclusion in the public before we have an opportunity as a board to look at the documents. And there's already a legal interpretation issue with as far as carryover days. So to have such a strong statement at this time, while we still haven't seen the report from Mr. Rogers, I don't sit at this time, but I guess I'm trying to understand, who made a determination? If what is our role as a board when it comes to the superintendent? If we don't make a determination that we've been notified, someone else made that decision for us.
I don't believe
Trying to
that's a
understand
question
what I was
that you would do.
elected.
She's the director of human.
Ma'am,
Excuse
excuse me, point of order, I have the floor.
1 second. Finish your
So it's just a clarification and that we do need additional information before jumping to such statements in the public.
As the Director of Human Resources, in conversations with the Director of Payroll and Benefits and with Lloyd Dugas, we reviewed the documents, we had a discussion, and that is what we concluded. That is what we are presenting to the board. As requested, the request for information, and I believe for last week, Mr. Rogers had emailed documents to the board, which included emails regarding time used and time off. I believe it also included Mr. Testani's last paycheck of November 4th, which showed what he was paid out. The only document I believe was not provided to you was what we refer to today. We had asked Mr. Rogers to pull up and go back to previous vacation days or sick days that were used by Mr. Testani. And he pulled it up based going back to 2000 for the 2021, 21 to 22 school year, and then this current, what would have been this current school year.
I'm going to let Mr. Albert say his point and then we'll bring it back. Go ahead, Mr. Bennett.
Just for the record that, this is Stanley was the superintendent of the school because 9 board members vote for him. Whoever but board member, I know was maximum 9 board members vote for him. And he know that Mr. Stanley was our employee. He was the nine bosses, and whoever superintendent we hear, Ms. Perry, whoever come future, they have to understand. It very obviously too that the chairperson, the former, he never communicated with the board members. It was only Testani and the chairperson. Testani, chairperson, Testani. He never communicated with the board the way it's supposed to be. That's why they make the decision. And everybody know, the whole Bridgeport school know, that Testani have the order to tell all the staff, do not communicate with the board, do not ask this question, do not do this, do not do that, because he created a bad division. He created that something, nobody communicate each other working as a team, all right? So did he complain about what we, as a board member, we bring it here and talk about, we need to find out what's going on, if he get paid or not get paid, but he don't need to be upset, he doesn't need to get mad, because what he did, I'm gonna repeat it again, what he did to us, it was a shame, So it's a shame what he did to us. So he don't need to be complaining. I prefer he look very quiet and, keep, close his mouth and then let's keep forward, because what he did to us, it was bad. It was bad. And thanks to him, look at what we're going through. Look at what all the staff is going through. I'm talking about everyone, why we had to go back and search so many things. Thanks to Michael Testani. That's it.
Thank you. Ms. Baptiste Perez, then Mr. Sokolovic, then Mr. Lombard, in that order.
Yes. At least for me, this is not any personal issue. I just want to make sure that what was paid was correct. I see the issue, the interpretation, but I do want in the packet that, is it Mr. Roberts? Don't have it open. Mr. Rogers, sorry. That Mr. Rogers did send, there were issues with the personal days that were requested. So I'm just going to go off of memory, so I may be wrong, but I believe there was a personal day request for August 5th There was a personal day request for September 22nd and 23rd, or maybe 23rd, 24th. So there were 3 personal days requested. Pursuant to our contract, there's 5 personal days. However, in his question upon his departure, Mr. Chestani asked for November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and possibly 5th. And so that too would lead me to just want to look at the inquiry and look at the documents as to make sure everything's lining up correctly. And so I think it could be just a knowledge gap of what it is with BCAS and the superintendent. And so I would look forward to being informed, because it is, you learn something new every day. But there are still inquiries and I suppose points of debates, but we don't have all of those answers right now. And we don't have that information in front of us. And so I don't want it to seem, I really don't want to seem, I like Mr. Chestani. I joke around with everybody. But it is a obligation that we have to the district and the way we conduct ourselves and the power of the board. And that I do want to continue to keep transparent and that we are actually taking full helms of our civic duties as elected officials. And so I would want to look into the personal days, because that, I mean, then from everything you're telling me, that should implicate or indicate that there's some issues or there is a point that we need clarification on.
Thank you. Mrs. Sokolovic? If you're talking, you're muted, or did he leave?
Hold on, I'm trying. Now I'm here. I'm here.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, back to the contract. In addition to what Ms. Baptiste Perez said about the personal days, there's also a request to be paid for professional development, which I believe was CABE conference while he was employed by Fairfield Public Schools. So I think that also needs to be looked at and documented if he was so paid. And also back to the contract, we go to 4B base salary. It says 4B, capital B, lowercase b, an additional amount of $5,000 to be paid to the superintendent in substantially equal installments during the contract year, which will be deposited, which the superintendent will arrange to have a deposit in the tax deferred account. He was paid in a lump sum upon his exit after 4 months. Should that amount be prorated since it's supposed to be part of his yearly compensation package?
Is that a question? I believe that's a question for Ms. Dixon. Yes. We'll give her a moment to respond. Ms. Dixon?
Okay, so the $5,000 was an annuity payment. I'll have to verify that as to whether or not that should have been prorated, because he was paid the full $5,000 in his last paycheck on November 4th.
Mrs. Sokolovic, does that answer your question? I know he's on the plane.
Yeah, it will once we verify the information and actually get legal opinion on that as well.
Okay. Mr. Dugan shook his head. All right. Just in case if you didn't see him. And now, are you finished, Mr. Sokolovic?
Yes, sorry about the hand. I'm just having a little trouble out here.
Okay, no worries. And then now I'll turn it over to Mr. Lombard.
Thank you. So can someone provide some clarification around meeting the 90-day, was it November 22nd? Is that what it was?
I guess 23rd.
23rd. You know, you were saying the last day was October 31st, then there were 10 days vacation. maybe some personal day, where did that fall? What was the actual last day? Because I know that's one of the bones of contention that's been brought up by some of my fellow board members, is possibly breaching contract by not fulfilling the 90-day required exit. So where does that fall?
Okay, his last official day was October 31st, 2022. Technically, his contract would have taken him through, I believe, around November 20th, 23rd, based on the day he submitted his notice to the board. However, as he indicated that, I believe after one of the last board meetings, that he was going to sever his employment on October 31st. He had indicated in one of the meetings or discussions that his original intent was to use his vacation days and personal days in November to carry him through until what would have been his last official day in the 90-day contract. But he decided not to do that. So according to our review of the records, he was not, even though there was talk about him taking personal days in November, he didn't. He was never paid out. He ended his employment and severed his employment with the Bridgeport Public Schools on October 31st, 2022. Does that answer it?
It does. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Miss Baptiste Perez.
So just so I can understand it correctly, when Mr. Testani submitted payment for professional development November 16th and 18th, there should be document for professional development to the CAVE conference. That was one part of Mr. Sokolovic's question that was not answered. There should be documents to show the district didn't pay for his professional development while working in another district.
Correct. There wasn't any paycheck because he wouldn't have been paid yet. He was paid, his last paycheck was November 4th, which would have been for previous time. And when the records that will provide you the chart that Mr. Rogers prepared, it shows you that when they pulled back his vacation days, once he gave notice, the payroll department pulled back some of his vacation times that were days that were granted to him. And you'll see in the breakdown, but no, there was no payment of any professional development days because again, he officially ended his employment with us on October 31st. So we would not have paid him for anything beyond that date.
I look forward to seeing the documentation. I think that is a point of confusion where it does not look good as a elected official if we've paid for someone that's left the district October 31st for professional development while serving a different district. And so I look forward to seeing the documents and actually just coming to a resolution of this claim, maybe for the board's consideration when we do hire a new permanent superintendent, throwing in that August 1st language for newly elected officials who may not know, be a good line to add there. Yeah, I'll tell you, like, reading that email, not knowing what was paid for as an elected official is troubling. Like, oh, great, the statute says we have one employee, can't even keep an eye on that one. So I look forward to seeing the documents. Oh my God, is it Rogers or Roberts?
Rogers.
I know it's an R. Documents, going through it, I think at this time, I don't, maybe there should be either a motion to table this upon further review of the documents supplied from payroll and human resources so we can feel comfortable with our decision as a board, or wait for a special meeting. I think
are you making that motion?
I'm just throwing some options out there in case someone wanted to do it. I would wait, because if I don't write, I'm gonna forget and you're gonna ask me again today. But anyone else would like to chime in as I write my motion?
Is there any other questions for Ms. Dixon or Mr. Dugas at this time? Mr. Macaron, do you have any comments, questions, or concerns at this moment?
No, right now, I'm okay with what's going on.
Okay. So, and other than that, there's an opportunity to table this, but that's totally up to the board, and we would need to have a motion to do that. So I will open up okay, Ms. Baptiste Perez, would you like to do that motion?
I would like to make a motion to table item 11C upon further information, discussion, and presentation from Mr. Rogers of Payroll and Human Resources.
Mr. Sokolovic, can you mute your phone, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
No, that completes my motion.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait, hold on. Mr.
Aye.
Sokolovic? Oh, okay, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
No.
Okay, one opposed. Any abstentions? Let the record reflect, Ms. Castillo has opposed.
Oh.
You too?
No.
Okay, all right, motion carries. All right, without further ado, thank you, Mr. Dugas, and sorry, it's been a long night, Mr. Dugas and Ms. Dixon. And at this moment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, have a good night, everyone. Thank you. Very
Bye-bye.
productive meeting. Thank you.